everyone. Welcome to Games, Guts, and Gore. Today, I'm here, joined by Raj Jawa. How are you doing, Raj?
I'm doing great, Davian. Thanks very much for having me here.
Yeah, of course. I'm glad to have you here. Raj, to get things started, why don't you familiarize the audience a bit with who you are, your personal journey, and kind of how you got to where you are today?
Sure. My journey started in, I guess, film school. I was doing some videos with friends in the neighborhood at the time. And then I went to community college, started film school. And somewhere along the line, I got the bug for acting. A friend of mine was doing some more personal projects that was kind of the characterization was kind of a mixture of him and my experience, a life
Mm.
experience at that point in life. So somewhere along the line, I got the bug for acting and just started pursuing it. Doing some classes and a lot of my experience I tried to get on set. Working with students, working with indies, a lot of unpaid work, just to kind of get my I was going to say get my teeth wet, get my feet wet, or cut my teeth, as it were. So. Yeah, just trying it out. And that's more or less it. I keep a hand in production. I do a little streaming. I do a little bit of everything. Kind of a I don't know. Just it feels like the creative journey as you're figuring things out and trying to find your place or your success, as it were. To kind of throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. So it's been a long time. I've been doing this for, I guess it's closer to 15 years now. I always say
Wow.
10, but after 10 you start losing track. But I think it has been 15, I believe.
Wow. That's crazy. That's a long time. So how old were you when you really started? When you said shortly after college?
Yeah, I would say it was probably my 20s, early 20s, I think. If I had to, it's probably easier if I remember what year and then backtrack to what age that was.
Yeah.
I graduated from community college in the end of 2008. So probably about that time, I started getting more serious about pursuing acting as a career.
Yeah.
Though I will admit, I didn't necessarily know what I was doing, because I think I believed, you just work hard and your network will build. But there is something to be said about the kind of more strategic plan of, like, who am I going to work with, and maybe I shouldn't take this or whatever. I was just kind of I enjoy being on set, so I was
Yeah.
just having fun. And then later in life, I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not as far ahead as I'd like to be, or should be.
Oh man. So, being of Indian descent, has any part of that culture influenced or inspired you creatively?
Yes and no, really. I think I spent, I don't know if you're well versed on Indian heritage, Asian heritage, Asian upbringing, that is to say. Some of the stereotypes of, like, impossible to please parents and things of this nature are, true.
Yeah.
And so I think I spent a lot of time trying to distance myself from my Indian heritage. Obviously, my name I kept, and I enjoy. I have no issues or qualms with that. Um, but yeah, I think for me, I spent a lot of time not as engaged or connected with that part of my culturalism. But I will say, I do appreciate the sort of perspective and awareness that comes from being of mixed race, because being this person, I only have my perspective in mind. Sometimes it's sometimes surprising to see how much of the idea towards being mixed race is kind of like foreign to many people, and maybe just in this country, I'm not sure. But yeah, I do appreciate that aspect of my of being multiracial or multicultural. So
Yeah. I may not look it, but I'm actually 25% Indian. That's where my last name comes from.
that makes sense. Okay, that
Yeah.
does make a lot of sense for sure.
My dad's 50%, but my grandfather is actually 100%. So, it kind of got watered down over the years, but
For sure, for sure. I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, I started at 50%, so it can only go lower from here.
So, I know, one of the big films you were a part of was Free Guy. What was it like being in that film, and do you have any interesting stories to kind of go along with that? I mean, there's a lot of big Hollywood blockbuster stars in that film.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, funnily enough, that was the last day of shooting for them.
Really?
So yeah, and so I didn't see, any big stars or anything like that. It was actually pretty chill, to be honest. It's my first time on a major motion picture anyways, so I was already kind of like, "Oh my god, I'm on set in a, they put me in a trailer, so I was in there for like, I don't know, maybe half an hour or so. I was probably there only about 3 hours. I think the only I mean, it's super nerve-wracking to be the only actor on set in that kind of
Yeah,
situation because
sure.
every light, every eyeball, every worker on set is just staring at you, whether it be through a monitor or directly with their
Yeah.
face. So that gets to be a little nerve-wracking. I think the funniest, or like maybe the funny nervous most nervous funny moment that I had was when the director Sean Levy on that project said, uh, "Eat the pizza faster. I don't want to wait between bites for you to eat the pizza." I'm like, "Okay, okay, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't obviously say that, but in my head, I'm just like, oh my god, I have to do better. Eat the pizza faster. God damn it." So that was probably the most. Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun, and
Yeah.
he's great. I'm not complaining at all. But it was very nervous to be in that kind of setting, and as I say, especially be the only actor. It's just like, oh no, I'm gonna screw this up. They're gonna cut me
Yeah.
out of the film or something. You never know, because I mean, my credit is gamer. Well, it became quad screen gamer, so you never know if you're just like, oh, I won't appear at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can imagine. I mean, being on stage, just giving a speech or whatever, whether that be at school or a business event, whatever it may be, is nerve wracking enough. I couldn't imagine having all sorts of directors and cameras. Oh my god, that'd be. Uh,
I know, you think you're used to it when you build up, many, many sets, but there's something about, I guess it's the star power, even of just being, a major motion picture director and what have you. It's just like,
yeah,
oh man, I'm here now. I have to not look like an idiot, really.
yeah, yeah. I think especially being told to eat pizza faster. Who would have thought anyone would be getting told that on the job?
For sure. Yeah, it's a dream. Actually, it's a dream to eat pizza for your job. I will say that. That was quite enjoyable. Here's the thing though too. I guess maybe this is something that maybe is normal on production. I didn't realize it, but obviously I kind of get it now. Is they would come after each take with the spit bucket, and I'm like, I'm eating this pizza. What are you talking about? I'm not going to spit the pizza out.
Yeah,
So there's a big expectation to not eat the pizza, whether it be for health or whatever reasons. Maybe some people don't want to eat the food on
wow,
set or whatever. I just enjoy pizza, so I
that's
went for it.
very interesting. Wow, maybe it's if someone keeps messing up, they don't want to eat all
For
that.
sure. Put it back. Just glue it back to the
Yeah,
pizza.
yeah. So, I mean, as well as an actor, you kind of mentioned it a little earlier. I mean, you're a producer as well. What does the role of being a producer really look like?
It's a bit of everything, really. I,
Yeah,
I would say the producer's kind of the mastermind of the set. It's kind of all the work and none of the public facing credit, anyways.
yeah,
Because the producer, they pretty much put all the puzzle pieces together. They hire the cast, they arrange locations. I mean, obviously you might have location scouts and all these things, but it's really the producer that's kind of signing off on everyone, giving everyone their approval to either empower them to go off and make that decision themselves,
yeah,
or like bring that decision back to me and we'll decide. So the producer's kind of the brain of it all. Obviously the producer even brings on the director, who obviously we know has the vision for the film, but
yeah,
a lot of that times it's the producer who brings that person with the vision in. So maybe the producer has an idea of what the film should be, and then goes and finds that director. Depending on the set. I mean,
yeah.
sometimes the director writes his own project and then maybe contacts the producer. There's many ways that it can be gone about, but in general, the producer is doing a lot of the lifeblood or a lot of the back end work of
Yeah.
the production.
Wow, that sounds hard. It sounds like you got a lot of people and a lot of pressure depending on you in a role like that.
It can be. It can be. Thankfully, like on the last production, The Seductress from Hell, that actually went really smoothly
Yeah.
because of the great people we had. You know, everyone was kind of an expert in their field. They were all executing at top-notch levels. It was really quite amazing to see. And I really felt like as producer, I got to step back a little more than usual and not have to micromanage everything because each person was very on top of their game.
That's cool. That's good.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, there's many sets where it's not that. So when it can be that, that's great.
So, I mean, you have obviously dabbled in a lot of things, and you even kind of you put it in an interesting way. Kind of, you throw a lot of things at the wall when you're young, and you're trying to figure out what you're trying to do, what you're heading towards. Was there ever anything that you kind of dabbled in that didn't really come to fruition?
Oh my god, so many things, really. I mean, I think the most connected was various sketches. I had a couple of sketch series like The Shy Guys. I worked with a couple of actors and we created something called Great Shakes, and we did, I don't know, maybe like 8 or so sketches. Before that kind of we stopped doing that
Yeah,
basically.
yeah,
And other projects like I've made music a little bit. I had there was some apps that help you make music, but I also had a Korg vocoder, which I really enjoyed because one of my favorite bands is Black Moth Super Rainbow, and that's kind of one of their primary instruments. um so that really attracted me to kind of dabbling with music for a little while. I did that to quickly compose music for 2 of my short projects. Even freestyle rapping, to be honest with you, like
wow,
not anything like super serious. It was called Butterbeard. It's still up, but yeah, it was really that project kind of was born out of me, like I'm driving to an audition, let me get into the mindset, so I'll do like little rap to I listen to a lot of instrumental or non lyrical, I guess, music. So it quite conducive to like freestyling over it,
yeah,
and they're really stupid, they're very dumb. um very not very rapish, I suppose would be a term to use. uh but yeah, I mean, there's so much of that. I think, especially going through this industry for a long time, you're doing a lot of things that you at the moment think, oh, this is the thing, this is going to be everybody's going to notice this. And a lot of times that doesn't pan out. A lot of
yeah,
times you are left wanting, at least as far as the expectation in terms of what people thought of it or what this gained you. So yeah, I think it's an endless sea, really, of projects that um, didn't get recognized, haven't been recognized yet. So yeah, I mean, those are the ones that stand out, but there are probably plenty of other things, maybe podcasts. I mean, I'm part of a podcast right now with some friends of mine called First Episode Podcast.
hmm
So that's pretty cool. We watch the first episode of a TV show and
that's
then
cool.
kind of talk about the themes. So it's been fun. There's so many of these things. Like I've been on and off with my own projects, other people's projects. I think it's the nature of the beast in being a modern creative.
That's cool. And I think that's a sentiment. I think especially with obvious creatives, but I think even outside of creatives, whatever you're in, I think that's a sentiment a lot of people could probably relate to. Trying out a lot of different things, and oftentimes a lot of things don't pan out.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, dialing it back just a little bit, you mentioned the Seductress from Hell. We had Andrew DeBerg, the director of the film. We had him on a few weeks ago. But just in case people didn't tune into that episode, could you tell us a little bit about the film?
Sure. The film's about an aspiring starlet who is in a relationship with an abusive and career unsatisfied husband. And combined with his abuse and the demands of the industry, she uh, it turns into the seductress from hell. She's pushed beyond her breaking point, and now trying to exact her both revenge and vengeance on those who have wronged her, but also those who maybe don't fit this kind of more realistic paradigm. I think she's uh, awakened to, as it were. To speak more specifically, like a lot of the film is um, kind of openly like talking about capitalism and Hollywood, and I think LA especially is a big microcosm of a lot of some of the worst attitudes. Some of it maybe well, maybe all of it. To be honest, I think people don't. Here's what I'm trying to say. I think people don't necessarily do these things maliciously, or maybe most people don't. I think a lot of people fall into paradigms of like anti-authentic behavior,
Yeah.
self-serving behavior, because we live in a world that's a bit cold.
Yeah, for sure.
Out in and outside of Hollywood. I think Hollywood is kind of ramped up on a lot of these negativities,
Yeah.
but yeah, there's a lot of individualism, a lot of not caring for your neighbor, a lot of these ideas that we've kind of become used to. And I think for me, Andrew may have different reasons, but I think for me, the film really attracted me because I enjoy films that talk about those kind of issues and bring those issues to light. Try to ideally wake people up from
Yeah.
their more I don't know, status quo, as it were.
Yeah. That's cool. Kind of a social commentary sort of deal.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a great word. I don't know why I couldn't come up with that, but that's yeah, exactly. Social commentary is the exact word I was looking for.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I think, like you said, I think the world is a lot colder. Personally, I think a lot of what has brought that is like this sort of vanity and egotism and whatever. I think a
Mm.
lot of that's brought on by, unfortunately, the rise of the internet and technology and social media and all that nonsense. And I also find it interesting. I'm sure Hollywood and being an actor brings that on, like you said, a lot more and ramps up, what may be relevant, in other areas. But I mean, I'm in Orlando, and, Orlando is kind of just like one nonstop party, basically. And I mean,
Hmm.
there's not actors here. I mean, maybe retired ones. I don't know. I know Hulk Hogan's walking around somewhere. But, a lot of the common sentiment is like if you're looking for a relationship or something like that, you are kind of screwed if you're here in Orlando, because that's not the type of people that are here. I was lucky enough to somehow find a needle in a haystack, um, in terms of relationships. But I mean, everyone else I know is not. And if they're in a relationship that's working, they've come from somewhere else. Like it's very interesting, especially in, it's not the acting mentality, but it is like this weird, constant party mentality. And it does just bring out this strange vanity in people and lack of authenticity, as you say. It's very, very odd.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I get that. And that's very interesting because I hadn't thought about that. But I do feel there's a similar, paradigm in LA. It might not be the constant party, but I think it is a lot of the things you're talking about is in the vanity and the, kind of using people as stepping stones or
Yeah.
whatever terminology you'd like to use for that. I think there's a disposableness to
Yes.
people that shouldn't exist. If we're whether it matters or not, I sometimes use the divide of like people and humans, and I kind of try to gravitate on the more human side as much as possible, and
Yeah.
gravitate towards people who lean that way as well.
Yeah. That's a good way to look at it. I like that.
Thanks.
So, not only are you as a producer in Seductress, from how, like you mentioned, but I mean, you're one of the main characters. Uh, Tell us a little bit about your character.
Derek, I play Derek, and he's I guess he'd be the best of a lot of these terrible people we've created. They're not like Always Sunny terrible,
Yeah.
just kind of like fake, caught up in the daily grind, as it were, of being in LA. I'm not an actor in the movie. I play a businessman, which is also not that far from my life. I own a business. That's how I sustain myself. So that's what I do day to day when I'm not, acting or doing marketing
Yeah.
stuff, which is most of the job these days. Yeah, he's the best friend of the seductress's husband, and he's sort of the catalyst. He's kind of figuring out the mystery, trying to get to the bottom of what's going on with the the woman who's soon to be the seductress,
Yeah.
and find out what's happening with his best friend.
Cool. Well, even if you're fake, at least I guess you care about your best friend.
It's true. That's true.
So, what do you think? I mean, we kind of touched on it a little bit, but what do you think the audience will really enjoy or connect to about this film?
My hope, I mean, for my perspective, I hope they gravitate or connect with the kind of crisis of individualism, as I mentioned, and then the prevalence of authenticity.
Yeah.
Those are really the two aspects that stick out for me. It may also be because of my closeness to the project. I mean, those are definitely more subtle, not necessarily spoken
Yeah.
themes, but I would say for anyone who's been in these type of situations, I don't even think it has to be someone who's in a creative field. Anyone who's felt both like stifled by the world around them, whether it be their relationship, their expectations of their job, their career. um, I think finding real people, um, is the goal, is my life goal for sure. So I think this film is kind of an illustration of the wrong side of it, the negative, kind of showing the the worst people and what can happen when people are pushed to breaking.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, like you said, I think that's a topic a lot of people could connect to. That's cool, and it's nice to see it in a horror movie because I mean, I'm a huge horror guy. I've always been a huge horror guy. I obviously made a podcast all about horror, so I'm a huge horror guy. But a lot of times, and I still love these movies. Some of them are still my favorites, but they do lack sometimes that overall message. Sometimes it's just a hack and slash, which is good. Sometimes turn your brain off, put that on, but it is nice when a horror movie does have those pieces of social commentary and characters you could relate to and things like that, because I mean sometimes the characters in a horror movie are so dry that you're just rooting for the killer the whole time.
For sure, for sure. And maybe that's a benefit. There is
Yeah.
something to that whole aura of these kill, not that you should like idolize them, but the fact that they are such a prominent and almost, even if they're not supposed to be heroic, almost heroic figure, as
Yeah.
it were, especially in these movies like you say that don't have necessarily a moral tale to
Yeah.
them. And I definitely gravitate more toward the, not being I didn't get into horror classically, I suppose. Like I'm more into the more modern and moral horror films. Kind of like one of them, especially that sticks out, is like Happy Death Day. I really enjoyed. And another one that's a little deeper, maybe questionable if it's horror, body horror, I suppose, is like Men. Alex Garland's Men.
Mm.
Those movies really stuck out to me as like, really trying to push that moral story, but also um, a decent movie as well, watchable movie as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was your first introduction to horror?
My first introduction, I'd have to say, is sitting in the theater and looking at those tiny Koopa heads in Super Mario Brothers, because I remember leaving crying from that movie. I could not watch that movie when it came out. That was horrifying. But I think my first real horror experience was, like I say, not being a horror fan in the beginning. It was a lot
Yeah.
of like just seeing Michael Myers, seeing Halloween movies on TV, just
Yeah.
seeing them, seeing his character, the I was gonna say dominating, but like the creepy presence of him standing there. I think he's backlit in some shots. Like I think a lot of that was very impactful. I may not have watched the movies, but they really like scared me. They really that character especially really bothered me quite a bit.
Yeah.
Um, and then I think the next time I like actually maybe picked something horror like
Yeah.
directly was Resident Evil 2 on N64. And the jump scare of the liquor coming through the interrogation room, that's another one that sticks with me a lot. I can't go to the bathroom without like making sure the shower curtain is pulled. Like I don't want anything popping out of there. Don't need that. Um and then like I guess the first like maybe official movie was perhaps The Grudge, I guess. It's hard to recall, but I think it might have been The Grudge that was the first, like, picking a horror movie, whether with friends or what have you, and sitting down and watching an actual, horror film.
Yeah. I think those are some pretty cool introductions. I mean, I'm a big Resident Evil guy myself,
Mm.
and I mean, I know you're a gamer. I mean, they've been recently re-releasing all those old Resident Evils slowly but surely, but they're pretty cool. The modern take on an old game, old classic.
Absolutely. One of the first games I played, I started working with some editors on my gaming channel, and one of the first games I played that they edited was Resident Evil 4, the remake. And
Oh, cool.
I'd never played it. And those puzzles, goddamn,
Yeah.
I got stopped very quickly on the. I'm like, where's the hint? There's no hint for this puzzle. It's
No.
just like you look online and figure it out because someone else managed to brute force it or look at the source code or whatever. It's
Yeah.
just like, why? How is this a puzzle if you don't give me any hints? But yeah, I did have fun. It is an enjoyable experience to play those because, like I said, other than 2, I'd never really played them,
Wow.
and 2 was more like just an exploration. Like
Yeah.
playing with those what do you call it? Fixed cameras can be pretty
Yeah.
difficult,
Yeah.
and obviously add to the horror.
Yeah, a lot of old school Resident Evil fans don't actually even like the new ones for that reason. They feel like, that's a big part of the game's identity. Why strafe away from it,
For sure,
It's
for sure.
interesting.
That's what I mean. That's certainly what worked in the suspense of 2. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know if the remake of 2 still had that same suspense or still had a fixed camera, but yeah, playing it the original for sure. I mean, I don't think the like I say, the liquor popping out of the interrogation room
yeah,
window would be as
yeah,
scary if you have free control of the camera, especially maybe if you know it's coming. But
yeah,
if you have free control of the camera, it might not be as intimidating. You might be
yeah.
not even looking the right way when he pops through or whatever.
There's definitely elements of that, and that I think is where those gripes come in.
Sure,
Is
makes
like
sense.
sometimes you can actually miss what you're even supposed to look at because in all the remakes, it's not fixed. You just walk around, do whatever you want. So yeah, for sure. I think it would be cool even if they just added it as, a little side mode, like you could toggle it on or off. It'd be cool.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, in terms of your credits, I mean, you're credited on a lot of different things. Which one of them are you the most proud of?
I think right now I'd have to give it to Free Guy just because it's a combination of my gaming interest. I actually genuinely enjoyed that movie. Like I enjoyed like Ready Player One as well, kind of more be the more comparable movie
Yeah,
to that. But Free
yeah,
Guy really attracted me. I think also I really like GTA, and that's basically Grand Theft Auto the movie
yeah,
in many ways.
yeah,
So I enjoyed that as well. And to be honest, it's my banner credit at the moment until I have something a little more, until I have something higher profile, which fingers crossed. Yeah, I think that's going to be the one that has the most pride for me at the moment.
yeah. Being a big GTA fan myself, I remember when I first watched the film in the movies. I remember really enjoying and connecting to it for that reason. I watched it with my best friend, and me and him are both big GTA guys. And it's fun. I mean, it's nice to see it because I think a GTA movie probably won't happen, or if it does, it'll be a long time from now. So it was nice to get that taste of like, oh, this is like basically it. Like it's cool. And like you said, with it all being set within that like video game realm, it's nice. It's a nice take because video game movies have that stereotype of not doing too great.
I was going to say they're going to give Michael Fassbender another chance. It's like Assassin's Creed didn't work. How about this one?
Yeah, yeah. Or I don't know how to say that. I'm probably gonna butcher it, but Uwe Boll or something. He's like a
Oh,
German
sure.
director, I believe, and he makes a bunch of video game movies, which I honestly enjoy. Like, I think they're fun. Like, you can't take them too seriously, but I mean, he gets absolutely hated on for it. But
I mean, that does seem to be the nature of being in the game space
yeah,
anyways. You know, you have some people that absolutely love you and some people that absolutely hate you, and very few
yeah,
people in the middle for some reason.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That is true. I mean, the most recent video game movie flop was Borderlands.
Sure.
I don't know what
Absolutely.
happened there. I mean, I haven't seen it. I'm a huge fan of it. I'm a huge fan. I've grown up with Borderlands. I love Borderlands. I haven't seen it yet, and I still want to see it. I mean, I'm not the type of person to let, audience reviews or whatever deter me. I like to come in with a fresh, open look at the movie regardless. I thought the trailers looked pretty faithful to the game. I mean, other than some of the characters being older, but I mean, I don't know. With video game movies, a lot of the times I feel like you kind of have two avenues to go down, and it's kind of like be super faithful to like the game and pack it with lore that only like the people who loved and played those games know, or try to make it as like commercially successful as possible, make it like, anyone can jump in. And I think you almost need to kind of blend the two. And I think I don't know if you ever played the Uncharted games or watched the Uncharted film, but that movie did a very good job. And I'm a huge Uncharted fan, and I don't like Tom Holland, so it was like this conflict right off cuff. But I mean, I love the movie, and it did this really cool job of, I think, because it didn't know if it was going to get a sequel, of blending a piece of each of the four games into this one movie, and it did it really nicely, and it did good, and it was well received. I mean, they're making a second one now, and
That's
it's just
awesome.
like, yeah, I mean, it's cool, and I think that's kind of the way to do it. And then you kind of look at like something that had ultra mixed reviews, like kind of the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. I mean,
Mm.
I've never really played those games, but I know it has like this crazy die-hard fan base. Like, they love it. And I mean, I watched the movie. I thought it was very bad, but I didn't really know what was going on, to be fair. And I think it's because
Mm.
that was the other avenue they took, where they just like packed it with lore. And I watched it opening night with my friend who also doesn't play. And there was moments me and him were sitting there, and the audience is going crazy. I mean, we were in a packed theater; they're going crazy, and me and him were kind of just looking at each other like, "What? What's the significance of this bobblehead?"
Mm.
Things like that. It's interesting.
For sure, for sure. I think for me, that was Fallout. Like, obviously, that has some mixed reviews. I think mostly positive. It doesn't matter. I'm not like, I don't be swayed by which way the audience opinion goes either. But as a Fallout fan, I really enjoyed that series. I think they did a very good job with the TV series. But I also think it was a lot of fan service for sure. That if you didn't have awareness of any of the games or a bit of the lore,
Yeah,
you might not get as much from it. It maybe doesn't have as much impact to you as someone who played the games. But as someone who did, especially, I started in Fallout 4. I
yeah.
I loved the TV series as well. I don't watch TV generally. I'm more of a movie person.
Same.
But that was one that I could sit through and watch and enjoy the whole series.
I gotta check it out. I'm a huge Fallout guy too. So I gotta check it out. I'm the same as you. I don't know why I find it hard to sit and watch a TV show. I don't know what's going on. Maybe my attention span is fried. I don't know.
Could
But
be, could be.
I'm definitely more of a movie guy. But I got to check it out. I saw Walter Goggins as the ghoul look
Mm.
particularly very interesting, and it looked like they were doing quite a faithful job to the game.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm also a big David Lynch fan, Twin Peaks fan. So Kyle MacLachlan being in anything is usually a big plus as well. But yes, Walter Goggins was a standout
Yeah,
star in that for me. He did an incredible job. And I'm not a huge like he's been coming up in the
yeah,
space. People are like talking about Walter Goggins a lot. And I was aware of him but didn't like have a huge attraction to him. After that, it's quite different. He is
yeah,
quite a powerhouse actor,
yeah.
I would say.
He's versatile too. I mean, if you
Yes,
look at all his different roles, he's got a lot going on. It's pretty cool. I like him a lot. So I definitely got to
absolutely,
check that out. Especially coming from a Fallout fan, I gotta check that out.
for sure.
So, I mean, we're talking about so many of amazing games, but what would you list as probably some of your like top 3 favorites?
Top three. I mean, Fallout's definitely in there. I guess like starting Fallout 4. I'm playing a lot of Fallout 76 right now.
Nice.
It's enjoyable. I enjoy it's similar enough to Fallout 4, but I still think Fallout 4 is probably the stronger entry for me. I know that's a bit blasphemous because most real Fallout fans lean on New Vegas, maybe
Yeah.
rightfully so. I'm not one of those people, but I fully respect that. Um, GTA series is definitely in there. I've been playing that since GTA 3. God, there's probably more than 3, but I think one that really sticks out to me right now, and I'm actually playing it right now, and I didn't play it back when it came out, was the movies. It's a simulator game where you build a movie studio and you also like hire actors, hire crew, and whatever, and you put on movies, even to the point of you can write your own script, rudimentary. At least as far as I've gone, I think there may be more detailed, and edit the movie as well.
That's pretty
And
cool.
basically, you're trying to basically make the most popular studio, most popular movie, build your stars to be the most popular stars. That's the maybe premise of the game. But really, it's a lot of fun just to kind of do all that. I
Yeah.
enjoy builder games, and that's one that's kind of stuck out. I think obviously because of the movie tie-ins. But it's really fun. I hope that game either gets a remake or an indie developer like develops something as good,
Yeah.
because that game hasn't it's out of print. It came out in 2005,
Wow.
from Lion's Head. Yeah, I think it's Lion's Head. And yeah, there hasn't been really anything since then, surprisingly. Obviously plenty of simulator games, retail simulator and what have you, but nothing like this. And maybe
Yeah.
it's because of how many different moving parts there are between the building and the hiring and the making movies.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It definitely seems like one that's well worth a comeback.
That's cool. I haven't even heard of that one at all. That's cool.
Yeah, you can find it actually. It's on myabandonware.com because
Okay.
it's currently not available. So you really no other way to get it at the
That's
moment.
cool. I gotta
Yeah.
check that out. That's really cool. I haven't heard of that. And I'm also a fan of, those builder simulator type games. So that's really cool.
Sweet. Which one's your favorite? Do you have a favorite currently?
One I'm always a fan of. I like Sims. I don't know
Hmm.
if you would completely put that in maybe that category. It's like kind of a blend,
Yeah.
I'd say. I like Sims. There's there's one that I'm it's the title's evading me. But it's very interesting. I will flash it up in text
Okay.
post. But basically you are vampires in charge of this hotel eatery type thing,
Hmm.
and you are kind of serving guests as it comes, and you're feeding them, but you're actually also cooking the guests and serving the previous guest. Basically, it's pretty cool. It's
That
fun, but it's again kind of like one of those more like random ones where you wouldn't necessarily expect it. Like, I don't think down the line, I mean, it might be remembered fondly, but I don't know. I don't think it's gonna have a bunch of games like it, similar to kind of what you're explaining.
For sure. Well, and it's you know what I hate the thing about games. It's so hard to be an iconic game. Like
Yeah,
I think what became iconic, especially like during COVID, was Among Us, and I don't think people even really think about that game much anymore, other than the occasional meme.
yeah,
But sometimes being an icon is even fleeting.
yeah. Definitely. There's definitely a lot of like games that are very popular for a very short amount of time. There was one recently, The Company or something.
Mm.
I mean, there's a lot of games like that. Among Us, I think, is the best example because that had like everything. They were like developing a TV show. They had all this merchandise, and I mean, I'm still a big fan of physical media. So if I buy a video game, I have to make sure I get the physicals. I go to GameStop all the time. They got like, I remember when it came out, uh, like a PS5 Among Us special edition, and I mean at the time, I don't remember how much it was. It was like $200 or something. Um, and now I see it in the clearance section, and I'm just like, geez. I was like, it is a sign of times because I mean, Among Us was popular really not that long ago.
No, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, time goes very quickly.
So what was your first introduction to games?
I was gaming on the NES
Hmm.
first as a small child. So Duck Hunt, and I think World Class Track and Meet with the Power Pad. Those were the two like stuck out. Obviously, I had Super Mario Brothers and what have you, but I think Duck Hunt was probably the first game I remember playing, and I had I think I actually don't think you could play it without the gun. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
um, yeah, those two were the kind of standouts of my NES like time. And then when I finally got PC sometime in the 90s, and I wasn't playing PC for long, but early days I was like Wolfenstein 3D, Halloween Harry, or also known as Alien Carnage, and this weird recycling game called Ecosaurus, which was fun. I mean, obviously you're just recycling stuff,
Yeah.
you're collecting trash, but it had an appeal. It had a very colorful aesthetic to it.
That's cool. That's cool. There's a lot of good games, a lot of old
Mm.
forgotten games that are
Oh
on,
yeah,
like, that kind of came out with the rollout of the PC. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff there.
definitely.
A lot of forgotten gems. So, pivoting a little bit away from games, where do you see yourself ideally like 10 years down the line?
It's always a hard question. I would say, I mean, I want to be 10 years down the line, more integrated in the creative field. I mentioned my I have a business, and that's kind of my primary income source at the moment. My primary, sustainability.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping to, pivot that to more creative arts, more creative work. Essentially be in the industry, as it were. Which to me is less about the fame, or if it is about fame, it's more about leveraging your fan base to get more opportunities. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what my goal has always been, is trying to get in, um, with the network of people who are like want to hire me regularly. Find my Wes Anderson or
Yeah.
whoever
Yeah.
would like to hire me regularly. And I'm open to other things too, some hosting or whatever. But I think that is probably the most ideal place I could be in 10 years, is be set up with someone who is making films regularly, maybe even if I'm producing them myself as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what I want to be, is fully integrated in the creative field. Um, you know, at
Yeah.
maximum I could.
That makes sense. I mean, you are very versatile in a lot of the things you do. I mean, Seductress, from how you got horror, you got comedy. I mean, and also I saw you recently posted your like voice acting reel. That was pretty cool. I mean,
Thanks.
being that versatile, I'm sure can only um benefit you.
I imagine so. I imagine so. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually saw this very interesting thing earlier, right before, like I would say an hour before we hopped on here, and it was Tyler the Creator. Uh and he was saying basically, sometimes we put out our stuff and we made it. It's our art. We love it. And he's like, this goes for anything. This could be music. This could be video making, movie making, acting. You put out your stuff, and sometimes you are so sure in your heart and you are so invested in it and you love it totally. It's your project. And then it comes out, and then you feel like it doesn't get the recognition it deserves and stuff. And it puts a lot of people off. But he said, and he was speaking out of obviously very personal experience and something he is putting forward, which I respect him for, is that you don't know who, even if it's a few people, you don't know who's watching, and you're basically creating this whole portfolio of stuff. Like, it still exists even after you move on, even once you're on the next project. All this stuff you've done still exists, and it's something for anyone to find. And he was saying, like, you don't know who that person may be. He says that he's put some people on that, like, they don't even know for a long time that he's watching their page, that he's watching,
Mm.
the songs they're making, and they're completely independent. He's like a couple hundred followers, like small people, and it's like you don't know who's watching, and you don't know who can take you to that next level. It's pretty cool. I thought that was a nice, interesting sentiment and pretty inspiring for especially creatives. I mean, mainly creatives in that, not to give up. I thought that was cool.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you said something that made me think too of there's a lot of creatives in all types of fields. I've found it in indie games, working playing indie developer games. I think for me there was an expectation sometimes that they would see the opportunity of like I'm a small creator, I don't have a big following on YouTube, but I'm playing your indie game.
Yeah.
They're potentially, for my mindset, I think I see the possibility for like a synergy of marketing, like, oh
Yeah.
look, this person played my game. And it's funny how infrequently that happened. I think, and this is not me ragging on indie developers. I think actors fall into this, producers, all people who are chasing bigger dreams, is sometimes maybe they have a vision of what they want. Let's say actors want to be on Hot Ones,
Yeah.
it's like maybe the podcasts on the road to that, the people that get you there, or the people that put you in front of an audience of any
Yeah.
size, is worthwhile on your way to your bigger dreams. I think there's sometimes people, what I'm trying to get to is sometimes people lack a vision of creativity of how they can utilize whatever opportunities come their way rather than waiting for the big one.
Yeah. I think that is spot on. I mean, I couldn't agree with that more. I mean, I think some people, like you said, in that road to their jackpot, in a sense, they kind of overlook some of the smaller stepping stones to that.
Absolutely.
For sure. So just to kind of slowly wrap things up here, are there any upcoming projects that you're kind of working on that you could talk about?
I'm going to start writing sketches again. So my hope is to definitely move more in that direction as much as possible. That'll probably kind of be my, I don't know, self project or self produced kind of project, maybe mostly solo, but I do have some ideas that are, hopefully be bigger and more production value. So
Yeah.
we'll see how that turns out. But the other one I want to mention is The League of Warriors. It was directed by Daniel Montenegro. It's a feature. I just shot it in Arizona at the end of July. And that should be out in festivals in 2025. I'm really excited about it. It's actually a gamer movie, or has gamer
Awesome.
synergy, as it were. So it should be a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun filming it. Some of the clips I've saw are already looking great. So I'm excited about that one. So the Seductress and the League of Warriors are the ones that are really top of mind for me right now.
Awesome. And just final question, final thing to wrap things up. What is the best way for the audience to support you best?
I mean, coming see The Seductress. If you're in the LA area, it's going to be at the Glendale International Film Festival and Michaud Film Festival. I think that's in end of September and near the end of October for each of those, respectively. I guess other than that, follow my YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, whatever platform, I'm probably on it. And hire me as an actor or whatever, voiceover, whatever you want, anything in between. I do it all. So yeah, I think those are the best ways to support me, I think.
Awesome. Well, guys, you heard what Raj said. I'll be linking everything in the video's description. His YouTube, his website, his socials. It's all going in the description. Make sure to go check him out. Go support Raj. And Raj, I really appreciate you joining us here, and I appreciate you, audience, for listening in. And I think that wraps it up.
Thanks very much, Damon. It's been a pleasure.
A podcast of terror, a haunting delight, unveiling the darkness in the dead of night. Horror movies and games, a macabre blend in the world of fear. Our souls